In this video guide on sweep tapping, I'm going to show you exactly how to combine sweep picking with tapping. I'll take you through the process step by step to make it easy to learn and master this technique. It's not hard to learn once you follow the 4-step process I'll teach you today. Before we go further, I'm assuming you already understand the basics of sweep picking and finger tapping. Hi, I'm Tom Hess. When I first heard and saw someone combine sweep picking with tapping, I was completely blown away and really wanted to learn the technique as soon as possible. I already could sweep pick and tap a little bit. When I tried to combine them together, though, it was a disaster. My playing was slow, sloppy, and, well, bad. One day, a really cool guitar teacher I was taking lessons from at the time finally broke down the technique for me in 4 easy-to-follow steps. Once I followed those steps, the sweep tap technique became really easy. And today, I'm going to share these 4 steps with you in this sweep tapping guide. Now, over many years, I've taught these same 4 steps to thousands of guitar players from around the world. Now, if they can learn it, so can you. Here's a preview of what we'll cover in this guitar lesson. The first step to mastering the sweep picking tapping technique is to slightly adjust the position of your picking hand so that your tapping finger is in a better position to tap onto the highest note of the arpeggio. I'll show you how to do that later on in this video. In step 2, we're going to slightly modify the sweep picking in 2 different phases. Going up the arpeggio will be a little bit different than coming down. I'll show you in just a few moments. It's a small change that we'll make from what you may be used to, but it will help you a lot to make this technique easier to master. The third step is muting. We need to have a reliable way to keep the strings we are not playing quiet. This becomes really important as we transition from the sweeping to the tapping and then back to the sweeping again. I'll show you 3 different ways to mute the strings. This will keep your arpeggio sounding accurate, clear, clean, and awesome. Example 1 is simply an A minor arpeggio. There is no tapped note yet on this arpeggio. I'm just showing you what is going to be the basis for what comes next. So it's simply A minor here at the 12th fret in 2 octaves. All right, so example number 2 is that same A minor arpeggio again, but this time with our middle finger of our picking hand, we're going to tap onto the 20th fret of the high E string. So you'll notice that instead of picking down here where you normally would, I'm actually moving my hand a little bit higher up on the neck. Well, I'll go into more detail about that in just a minute. But let's just talk about the example itself. So we've got A minor up to here, and now we're going to tap onto this note and then pull off. And there you have the arpeggio with the tap note on top. So now let's talk about the 4 steps I mentioned in the beginning of the video. So the first step here is your hand position. When you're normally playing arpeggios, you might sweep down here with your picking hand down here by this pickup here. And you can still do that when you play an arpeggio when you tap on top. You can keep your hand down here, that's perfectly fine. But you can also move your hand up here a little bit closer to the 24th fret or wherever. This way your middle finger only needs to sort of kick out here between picking, you tap, and then you come back. So that's what it looks like, slow. Now, if you don't want to move your hand this way, you can keep it here. You'll just have to move your whole arm to go from this position to the tap note and then back. If you don't want to move your whole arm, then you can just start a little bit higher with your sweep picking. Start maybe picking here, then flick your middle finger out and then come back. Now, step 2 is to modify what we just talked about in step 1. Okay, so if you have your hand up here and you're picking up higher up on the, closer to the neck here, I should say. When you ascend, going up the arpeggio, you can have your pick pretty straight. And then when you descend, you'll notice that my pick went sort of diagonal back. So the pick travels pretty straight across this way. It's not going diagonally as I'm sweep picking. It's going pretty much across the strings. Then I flick the middle finger out, tap the 20th fret, and then tuck the finger back in, and then I start going on a little bit of an angle back down. So it looks a little bit like this. So it's more straight, flick the finger, and then you can either come straight back or you can go diagonally back. I often go diagonally. So that's something that will help you a little bit to not have to have this big double hand motion where you're doing this and then you have to hurry up and get your hand back. You can just come diagonally back. It will save you some time and it makes it not feel so nervous when you're trying to do this and kick your finger out, at least to start. And then after you feel comfortable with it, you don't have to really do that anymore. If you want to just do this where it's straight across, tap, straight across, that's fine too. But I think to get used to the idea, if this is new to you, diagonally coming back might feel a little easier in the beginning. Now let's talk about something really important, which is muting. If we don't have a way to keep these other strings quiet, it's going to sound bad pretty quickly. So the first thing that I do with my picking hand is I mute all the lower strings with my thumb. Okay, so my thumb just lays here on the guitar like this, and you'll see that as my pick travels across, my thumb just lays on all these other strings. I'm not putting a lot of downward pressure down, it's just riding along, okay, and that keeps all the lower strings quiet, and that's true when you're ascending and descending. Now for the higher strings, we've got to have a way to keep those quiet too. And there's a couple of different things you can do, and you can use both in combination. The first thing that I do is I use my middle finger when I'm descending, the middle finger on my picking hand, and sometimes the ring finger too, and they just ride along. So after the tap is done, you'll notice that right now this finger is just resting on the high E string. It's not pushing down, it's just resting there. And as it comes down, it goes over the second string and sometimes the third string. And you can use your ring finger too. So you've got these other fingers in your right hand which currently aren't doing anything, and they just come along for the ride. Okay, and they're just coming down here and they're muting. And the other thing you can do, the third way, is to mute with the backs of any of the fingers in your fretting hand. Now you can't really see it very well, but what happens is after I play, let's say this note here, this finger often still is in contact with the string it just played. I'm not totally lifting it off like this because I want to have something touching the guitar that helps to keep those other strings quiet. When I go here to the roll, this finger, this knuckle, starts off flat, then goes like this, and the back of this finger is still touching string 3. That's helping to keep that string quiet. So those are different ways that you can use in combination to keep the arpeggio nice and clean and quiet. And it's particularly important with all the tapping going on, and the chance for making noise goes way up. So that's a way to keep better control over the guitar. Okay, step number 4. This is really just a trick that we're going to use, and it's going to make the sweep picking arpeggios easier to play, which is good, and sound cooler, which is even better. In a combination, that's awesome. Easier and sounds better. Awesome combination. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to add 2 more notes to the lick. Okay, I'm going to add 2 more notes. And we're going to, the 2 notes we're going to add are the 2 fretted notes, the ones you play with your left hand, on string 1. So let me show you real quick. I'll give you the example in tablature in just a minute, not yet. I just want to show you real quick what we're talking about. So if we have our original arpeggio that goes like this. Okay, that was example 2 that I showed you earlier. What we're going to do is we're going to take that same thing, those 2 notes, and we're going to play them again. And then we're going to tap on to the 20th fret. And come down. Now what that does for us is it changes the rhythm from a group of 7 notes, as we had in example 2, to a group of 8 notes. So there's more notes that we're cramming in there, but it's actually easier because it falls rhythmically, 1E and a 2E and a 3, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's a lot easier to count that than it is to count to 7 while playing. The other thing is it buys your picking hand, a lot more time. Because before, we've got the arpeggio like this. And then you got to get your finger right there and get it back in a hurry. Okay, so that you don't have a lot of time to transition between sweep picking, the tap note, and then back to sweep picking. But when we add these 2 notes, look at all the time we have now to go between sweep picking and the tap note. Watch. A lot of time to get from the ascending sweep pick to the tap note. We have way more time. That makes it easier. So now let me give you the example. This is example 2A. And this is the one I just played for you before. Sounds nice. And it's actually easier than playing that same arpeggio without the tapped note. So examples 1 and 2 were based off of the A minor arpeggio, and of course we can do this for an A major arpeggio as well. If we take a look at example 3 and I play just the arpeggio without the tap, it's simply that A major arpeggio you're probably already familiar with. Now to add the tapped note here, we're going to tap onto fret number 21 because that's the note that's in this chord, A major. Okay, so it's going to be like this. So same thing as before, just doing the arpeggio, kicking the middle finger out, fret 21, coming back in. You can come back diagonally or just move your hand and then come back straight. Now let's talk about how to practice this. You'll notice that when I had example 1 and example 3, the rhythm there is 16th note triplets or sextuplets. But when we add the tapped note, now we have a group of 7 notes. You may have noticed that in the notation. There's a group of 7. So we're dividing the beat into 7 parts instead of 6 parts. Those are called septuplets. And if that septuplet division is hard to feel or to count, just cram focus only on the bottom and the top notes. What does that mean? That means that if you're using a metronome, instead of trying to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 really fast, which is hard to count, especially as you go faster, just focus that the first note here is played to the click. That note's played, actually it would be the tap note that plays to the click. So just focus on, here's the click, here's the click, here's the click, here's the click. Don't worry so much about trying to subdivide counting because it's going to go by a bit fast. So it's more important to practice the muting than it is to worry about building the speed. All right, so if you're just trying to get it faster and faster, that's great, and building the speed is important, but the speed doesn't mean anything if there's all kinds of noise. So focus on the muting primarily more than focusing on building the speed, because if it sounds sloppy, the speed is useless and you can't really use it. So let me know in the comments section what other topics you would like me to make new videos on, because I read every comment that is made, and I often make new videos based upon things I see in the comments section that people are asking for. So if you have something you'd like me to work on or to make for you, let me know. Now, if you like this video, subscribe to this channel and hit that like button. If you want to increase your guitar speed by 10% or more in just one day, I'll show you how in my new free guide titled Speed Blitz, How to Play Guitar 10% Faster in One Day. It's totally free. So click on the link below to download your copy so that this time tomorrow you can be playing guitar 10% faster.